You're listening to the Bible Uncut and Unfiltered. We believe the Bible doesn't need to be watered down or cleaned up to be understood. Our goal is to provide a healing place to discuss the questions you can't ask and the context you won't learn in church. I'm your host, Colin Connor. Now, on to the episode. All right, everybody, welcome back. We have quite the unique episode that we are trying out here today because I am joined by some very special guests. We have our editor and occasional co-host, Jana.
Hello, hello.
We have returning guest, Stephanie Connor, my own mother.
Hello.
And first-time guest, long-time listener, grew up together, Eli.
Yo, yo, yo!
All right, so I have way too many books. I have collected books for a long time, gone to library book sales, all that, been a part of several churches where like pastors were retiring or downsizing libraries, and I ended up the beneficiary of that. However, not everything in there is worthwhile. Most of it is not. And I have recently decided to start downsizing a little bit because I just have a crap ton of books in boxes that have not moved in years. But I can't be normal and just throw them out or donate them. I have a podcast, so we have to talk about them. And because I don't like to suffer alone, I have brought these three along with me for the ride today. So what happened is we each found some booklets, little pamphlets, probably about 20 pages-ish each. And we each took two of them at random, whatever looked interesting to us, took some notes, and we are going to talk through these random pamphlets that I had in a box from who knows where and see what wonderful gems we can get out of these here. So everyone want to go ahead and tell us what we have here that we are reading today. I have the booklet When You Love an Addict, Wisdom and Direction by Philip G. Monroe. And this is from New Growth Press. I think it's only about 10 years old. Yeah, it's about 10 years old. And then Help for Those Who Hurt by Richard W. DeHaan, The Christian Outlook on Affliction. And this is from Radio Bible Class Booklets, 1979. So that's a throwback right there. What else we got?
I have Self-Esteem. What does the Bible say? It is from 2008. I am
We know what
recent.
the Offspring says.
Yeah.
And that's from Discovery Series. And also It's Not Fair, Trusting God When Life Doesn't Make Sense by Bill Crowder. So
We got
Yeah.
some overlap with Elijah there.
I was going to say, yeah, I got Why Is Life So Unfair? I have no idea who this is by. RBC Ministries, I
Mm.
guess.
Oh, Regular Baptist? Or
Yeah,
that's
there you go.
RBP.
They're not funded
Good
or
enough.
endowed by any group or denomination. And then the other one,
I appreciate the clarification. And what's the second one?
Jesus Parables About Money.
All right.
Oh, if I can interject, it's Radio
Yes.
Bible Class. That's what RBC stands for.
Oh, so do you have, that's the same thing I have here.
Hmm.
I just have a much older one. Okay. All right. Good
Yeah.
call. Jana, what you got?
So I have When Disappointment Deceives by Jeff Olson, and that one was written in 2004. And
A little
then,
confused on the title there. Like I was not expecting much out of Disappointment. I don't know how it's deceiving you.
yeah, that book is a roller coaster.
All right.
And
I'm
then
excited.
I have, and then I have When God Says No, Broken Dreams to New Beginnings by Sheridan Voysey, and that was written in 2014.
All right. So I will get started off here. And you know what? I'm going to go with the one that I hate to say is better. You know, I hate using that term here, but when we're talking about fundamentalist pamphlets, it's a very skewed rating system. So this is from biblical counseling circles. This guy, Philip Monroe, he has worked with Diane Langberg. She does a lot of biblical counseling. And that's a mixed bag. When I was working on my counseling degree, that is in biblical counseling. So I have some background in all of that. And a lot of times it can end up just being, take two Bible verses and call me in the morning. Like it is an improvement on the kind of quote unquote counseling a lot of people would hear in church before. But what we're going to see as I look through this booklet is it gets caught in between trying to respect modern medicine while also thinking that the Bible is your answer for all medical issues as well.
Mhm.
And so they try to be better, but they still get caught in that. So There were some good things in this. As they were talking about dealing with an addict in the family, they did acknowledge that people are going to hurt in this. Like, you're going to feel conflicting feelings of love and hate for the person at the same time. And, you know, not a lot of Christians are willing to admit when they feel like they hate someone. So even on the first page there, I was like, all right, we're not quite as bad as we could be. They admit that sometimes you can't just say no to something. Like, there are other processes going on in your brain and just the way you've been raised that can make it more difficult. They try to break down any barrier that would make you see the addict as less of a person. And just saying, like, you know, we're not that different on our worst days. They acknowledge that addicts don't always have an explicit reason for what they're doing. Like, if they say, I don't know why I did this, it's like, yeah, sometimes they just haven't thought through a reasoning why. They haven't taken the time to figure out their motivation. So there were some good things in here. Like they said, to, you know, validate the good things, the little steps that they take. But I did have several problems with it, as I'm sure you can expect. And it again starts off on page 1, because they begin saying loving an addict is painful. It feels like watching a car crash over and over again. And, like, this is not great when our first sentence is comparing people to car wrecks, but, you know, that sets the mood for this. And still here on this first page, they say the National Institute of Drug Abuse reports that substance abuse costs Americans about $600 billion every year. I thought that was kind of telling, that the statistic isn't about the number of people that are affected or how it affects them. It's just about money lost. And that's what a lot of churches care more about, if we're being honest, is money in, money out versus the actual people who are hurting. Yeah, Elijah is going to tell us about that with the parables.
Yeah,
on
there's a
Monday.
lot of stuff we could be doing with that money, fellas. Let me tell you.
Yeah. So yeah, I think the focus is definitely off there. And I noticed very early on, they start talking about addiction as being when you believe lies rather than God's truth. And I remember this kind of thing when I was getting my master's degree. It's like, to them, every problem in life is you're believing a lie about something, a lie of the devil instead of the truth of God. And, like, there's some validity to that. You know, if you're, you know, let's just say addicted to whatever drug, like, yeah, you are believing that is going to provide some fix to whatever's going on. And you can say, oh, that's a lie, that's not truth. But at the same time, it does give you a little bit of relief. Like, you wouldn't be doing it if it didn't have something that was providing you. And they don't seem to try to understand why. Like, I went through this entire book that is about addicts, and there was no mention whatsoever of them going to see a counselor. There was no mention of medication being an option. There was no mention of asking how, like, their background could have led to this. Like, why did you end up here in the first place? It was all just about trying to find some spiritual reason for this. And they get caught in between acknowledging that addiction is real, because they don't want to sound too wacko, but also trying to say that this is a spiritual matter, that it comes across, if you get saved, you won't deal with addiction.
What year was this one?
2014.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was the older one.
No, it's not. But that's biblical counseling. They're still that far behind on things. And they're just trying to live in these two worlds. And some of the examples they give in this were kind of ridiculous. They said that if you think you deserve a little comfort in life, that is a distorted way of thinking. So yeah, don't ever think you deserve any comfort.
Amen.
It's better to ask Jesus for forgiveness than to try harder to be better. So basically all you have to do is just ask for forgiveness, and that's better than actually trying to better yourself.
Wait,
That's wild.
is that a direct quote?
Let me see, this is on page 9.
It's better to ask for forgiveness than to try to make yourself better. That's what you said?
Yeah, choosing repentance, honestly going to Jesus for forgiveness and help over penance, trying to pay for bad behavior with trying harder. That interrupts the destructive cycle of addiction. So you have to choose, rather than trying harder, you should just ask Jesus for forgiveness and help.
Why are those two mutually exclusive?
Right, right. Like, it's fine to ask for help and to pray about it or ask for forgiveness, but yeah, putting that as the more important thing, like, not anyone can ask for forgiveness. I think the more important thing is how you show change in your life. But they don't understand nuance. Like, where is it? So they give this whole example of course, being a very conservative Christian book. They use several examples of being addicted to pornography. And they have this following conversation. Friend running into someone at bookstore. How did you do today? Male addict. Great. I didn't look at porn. Fantastic. But how come I saw you coming from the magazine section of the bookstore? I didn't look at anything, really. But isn't that a swimsuit magazine I see in your hand?
What the?
The only
Notice how the
magazine-
man is blind to smaller sins and dangerous decisions. But this is the kind of mindset that we all heard in church, where it's like doing one little thing that can possibly be construed as getting you into bigger sin is the same thing as sinning.
Slippery slope. The slippery
Yeah,
slope.
exactly. It is that mentality. And the examples they give of addictive behaviors and how you continue to feed them just by doing normal things. The internet porn addict decides to surf the web. The gambling addict decides to go for a drive. The spending addict decides to go to the mall.
Unbelievable.
These are
I can't
normal
believe
things.
slippery
You are guilting people for doing normal life things.
Oh my
Uh,
goodness.
So the only magazines the store sell are pornos.
Right.
The only place your car is going to take you is to the casino.
Which, if you think that the magazines sold in stores are pornos, you have never seen a porno before. This is ridiculous how they don't understand nuance. Even if you want to say, I personally think that I really have zero self-control in this area, I don't go near whatever. Fine. But they don't seem to understand that something that can be wrong for you can be okay for someone else. And they are just turning everything into being about your addiction or sin. And it's like,
It sounds like almost any sin at all is quote
Yes.
unquote an addiction.
yes, absolutely. And anything can be tied to that. I remember when I was in college, there was a teacher that went on a rant about any time women wear a top with writing across the chest. And they said, oh, this just draws your attention right to their chest. And that's wrong. And you know what the funny thing is? I am plenty red-blooded male, and I had never thought of it that way until they said that. And now, even several years later, whenever I see a girl wearing a shirt with that, I think of what that teacher said. I'm just like, how weird are you that you are making this sexual?
It
In the
sounds like he had an
fundamentalism,
addiction.
she.
Oh man, that's
Yeah.
even worse somehow.
We had a pastor who did that. He wouldn't let his daughters wear shirts with writing because of that, because
Oh,
it drew
Like
attention.
any writing at all?
Nope.
Yeah.
So like if I was wearing like a Philly shirt,
Yeah.
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
We knew a pastor that wouldn't let the women in his family, including his wife, his daughters, wear open-toed shoes because he thought that was sinful. I'm just like, bro, you got a foot fetish is what you got, and you're putting it on all of us. And if that was sinful, what do you think Jesus was wearing? He
It
rocked
reminds
Nikes.
me of The Office, where Dwight looks at Angela at the dinner party and looks at her open-toed shoes. It's like, when did you become a whore?
Right, right. Yeah, exactly. But this is what evangelicals do, is they'll talk so much about the sexualization of our culture. And like, you're the ones who are making everything about sex. None of us would have been thinking that going for a drive equaled what was that?
Gambling.
Was that the gambling
Gambling.
addict?
That was the
Yeah.
gambling
Right.
one.
And
Oh, you should have
I
given
just
us a
didn't know
quiz.
that gambling apps existed either.
You should have given us a quiz. We're like, all right, what's this one leading to?
Right. Yeah. But yeah, you're taking all of this and turning it into issues that it's not for most people. And then of course one of the suggestions they give for how to resolve all this is talking to people in your church.
Amen.
And I'm sorry, as someone who grew up in church, the worst thing you can do is talk to people in your church. Like, talk to a stranger on the street about your problems before you share it with church people, because it's going to get all over real fast.
Mhm.
Oh, you got that unspoken prayer request right there.
Right, exactly. So I just thought too of like how these examples that they're giving, who is deciding what is an addiction here? Because I've been in these circles enough, I got the training enough to know that they're going to think somebody who watches R-rated movies is borderline addicted to porn, or someone who watches anime movies is addicted to porn, or someone who has a gambling app on their phone is
Most
a
anime
gambling
people
addict.
probably are. I mean,
Yeah. But I just think of how many times I've seen these things get blown out of proportion. And I've seen marriages break apart because one spouse was told to treat little things as big addictions. And so they start fighting over this and over spiritualizing everything. And it just causes so many problems. They're trying to be better than most in their approach here, but it still just ended up being very shallow. Just like, be a Christian and you won't have all these problems and be accountable to people in your church. So that was When You Love an Addict.
that was a little more than 10 minutes.
It was,
the
and
way.
I shortened my notes. But
Don't worry, that'll make up for the 2-minute review I'm about to do.
that's what I figured as much.
Yes. We appreciate that.
Yeah. All right, Ma, you want to go up next?
Okay, I guess I'll go with It's Not Fair, Trusting God When Life Doesn't Make Sense. So this book, I will have to say though, being in church as long as I was and being out for what I don't know, I guess it's still a short amount of time. Reading this, I was thinking to myself, too soon. It's too soon, because it reminded me so much of preaching that I heard from the pulpit for all those years. It's
That's
just,
all the Christianese that normal
yes,
people don't say. And
yes,
it becomes a dog whistle. You hear it and you're just like, ah.
yes, exactly. This made me want to drink and gamble by reading it.
Well, all you need to do is go for a drive and you'll end up there.
Or go to
Yeah.
the magazine section.
Right.
Right. I go to the magazine section and get hooked on porn. But anyway, so the main thing of it is
That's our soundbite for this week. Go to the magazine section, get hooked on porn.
that's my mom. Of course, your answers can be found in the book of Psalms when it comes to life
That's
not
where
being
my
fair.
answers came too.
Yes, of
Oh, there
course.
you go.
Yeah. And the law of sowing and reaping, they remind you of this. And a lot of reference to Asaph. And one
Did we
thing
get the same book?
we might have, Elijah, but Elijah, if you say the same thing, it's okay. It means we really needed to hear it.
Yes,
Right?
that's right.
Yeah.
We've heard that too. So one of the things it says is in that he complained, and it says by complaining, he can see, this is underlined, he could see them for what they really were, a dangerous temptation to reject God. His complaints. That's what this book is saying. So if you complain, then you are rejecting God. And I'm thinking, it's no wonder we were all emotionally scarred. I mean, because
Did you ever read the Psalms that you're talking about? Most of them are the psalmists complaining to God.
complaints, exactly. But this is saying that if you do that, it's a temptation that you're going to be rejecting God instead of it being something healthy to do.
Can I harp on that for half a second?
Oh, of course.
I'm just struck by how there is a fear in that your relationship is going to break if you have a problem. Like, if you have a single doubt about God, you're going to want to leave him, and that's the worst thing possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I always try to tell people, imagine your relationship with God like you would a marriage relationship or a friend's relationship. Like, if you're using that same language and it's unhealthy for a human, it's unhealthy with God too. And if you have a marriage, say, where you're not allowed to have any conflict, any doubt, anything, because then the whole thing might fall apart. You're going to end up breaking apart the relationship because it needs to go through those things. You need to be open, honest, have these discussions that you have concerns, doubts, fears, whatever, or else they're just going to fester. But that's what they're encouraging you to do with God. So it's no wonder then that people who do that then end up leaving in a huff over all this, like, because you told them not to face it when they should have just experienced it rather than suppressing it.
Right. And then you deal with it all those years later. It also says here, though venting his frustration seemed natural and helpful, doing so led him down a dark and troubling path by venting frustrations. Yeah. So, I mean,
troubling path. Like, he's
now this is the thing though. I just remember things. If you're complaining, then your attitude is not right. It's like they make it like it's not normal to complain and to vent, which is actually very normal and healthy.
Healthy,
yeah.
even. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Not
then
that you're ever doing, like, that's not right either, but just pretending to be joyful all the time is just as wrong as complaining all the time.
exactly.
I feel like that might piss me off more than people
I'm in that
complaining.
crowd for sure. I'd rather be around a complainer than a saccharine. Just, I'm happy all the time.
Yeah, because you inside you're like, no, you're not. You're lying.
Right.
The other thing, he referenced this story, The Four Feathers. Have you ever heard of it? It's about a
Yeah,
man.
I have actually.
Is it in
Mine
your book?
referenced that too.
No way. What are the authors of those two books?
Wait, Bill Crowder?
Mine doesn't have an all. I don't know where that would be. I couldn't find it. I was looking on it.
Yeah, mine was on the cover.
Yeah.
It's okay, Elijah. But they talk about this man. It references Harry Faversham. He was in the British Army. It's the late 1800s. So his unit was being deployed to Sudan, and he was so afraid, like he didn't want to be deployed. So because he was so fearful, he resigned his commission, and he was rejected by his 3 fellow officers. And what they did, each one of them gave him a white feather, which symbolized cowardice. Okay.
You're right.
His fiance wanted him to be a hero, and she was so disgusted with him, she gave him a white feather. He was estranged from his father, who was in the military. He was a military man. And, his father said he didn't even know him. And this is what it says. One single fear-filled choice had a powerful destructive impact on all the relationships in Harry's life.
Oh, yeah, because everyone in his life was a monster.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say, probably good to get out of those relationships.
Yeah, I mean, it made me very angry.
Evangelicals and fundamentalists just think one wrong decision, I mean, assuming that was a wrong decision, but just one wrong decision will ruin your life forever. It's like, most people are actually relatively forgiving. Like, we forget when other people do stupid things.
Right.
It's only Christians who say it'll define you the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. And aren't they all about forgiveness?
Yeah.
Picking out these pamphlets, right? Yeah. Not one of them, like, of all the options, was about forgiveness.
Like, that's telling.
That's a good point, Elijah.
Yeah.
Now, it also says here, Asaph wanted to vent his anger, but he resisted because he sensed the damage it could cause to the people of God who look to his example. So he's actually hurting the people of God by not setting a healthy example.
Right. Let's set the example of being fake.
Yeah, exactly.
We might have the same thing. Because
it's
I
okay.
highlighted this. It says we all have a profound responsibility to one another. And it is that sense of responsibility for others that can provide restraint and self-control. Wow. It's our responsibility to not complain. And then it says to suffer in silence.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. Asaph,
does yours actually?
It says he chose to suffer in silence.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah. Yep. And
that's what you're supposed to do. That's what you're supposed to do.
That's how you get depressed and suicidal. That's not okay.
And it says he found new perspective in the sanctuary of God. That's the only place you can find new perspective. You know, you can't do it outside of that. Are you still looking for that, Elijah? Because I don't want to cut you off.
No. You're taking all my points from this one, so I have to
It
jump in
says
with mine.
it says here when Asaph saw that the people who were sinning saw them as they would be on judgment day, he stopped envying them. And that reminded me of church, like, I'm better than you because at judge, you know, you're going to be judged. And
Right.
you know,
the sheep, you're the goats.
yeah, I hated that. That brought back bad memories. And it's like Asaph saw clearly his attitude and actions as an offense to the God who is perfectly just. So it's like you can't feel your feelings because it's an offense to God. And that's not true because God gave us feelings to feel for a reason. And what we do to ourselves is far worse than anything someone else could ever do to us. We do this by questioning the goodness, character, and faithfulness of God. So you're not allowed to question.
Doing that in silence anyways.
Right.
So I don't understand.
Yeah. It's like it's encouraging you to suffer. Like you said, suffer in silence. Don't share anything. Don't vent. And
never get any answers to any of your questions because you're not allowed to share that burden.
Right.
Yeah. You don't know how much easier this might be if you have other people in your life to help you with it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Maybe the people that God put around you to help you with that.
But do you remember we were always taught, you know, you have to have a good attitude. Your attitude is everything. So no matter what is going on, no matter how bad it is, it's like stifle it, suppress it. So yeah, but I don't know if Elijah wants to
jump off what you just said with your attitude and everything. That was my
attitude.
Yes, yeah, we want to talk about your attitude right now.
With the adjust your attitude and everything. That was the biggest. I feel like that was the overarching theme of this booklet, right? And again, it was titled "Why Is Life So Unfair?" What I got out of it, or what it was telling me, is like, it's not that unfair. You just need to fix your perspective.
Right.
So it didn't really provide any answers. Like, it was just like, nope, other people have it worse. You need to look how much better you have it.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Yeah, and there is something to that where we get so caught up in our little bubbles that we think, you know, things are the worst there ever been. But just because someone else out there has it worse than you doesn't mean that you don't have something bad going on. You know, you're going to tell the person who just lost one family member not to complain because someone just lost 4 at a time in a car crash or something. Like, you know, there's something to be said for being responsible for what you're responsible for. And I think that's what even my booklet, the Addicts one, was kind of like that too. It's a spiritual thing. It's all about the lies you're believing. And there's so much in life we can't control. The one thing we can control is ourselves. So I think that's what these things are trying to say. Like, just better yourself, work where you can. But the way they word it is so unhelpful. And it's just all the Christianese that gets piled on and makes it seem like it's guilt tripping instead of giving any advice.
Yeah. I think overall, at least in this one, I feel like the heart was good. Like, the intent was good here. But it was useless. Executed well.
That's what I'm finding with a lot of these. Is it's not even necessarily like some of the stuff is bad. And we're going to get
they're not saying whack stuff.
Some of them are. Not that one, but it's useless. It's like the way they're presenting it isn't telling you anything you wouldn't have already known before reading it.
It does not answer the question, why is life so unfair? It definitely does not do that.
I agree.
But when you think we're all horrible sinners that, you know, God just wants to throw into hell, then yeah, you deserve however bad life is, and anytime it's not bad is a blessing, which is kind of a twisted way to look at the world.
Well, that's how we're supposed to be doing it.
Apparently. Elijah, you still got some?
Oh, I just had some funny illustrations outlined in this one. So mine had a section of like the hard questions people ask, right, about why life is so unfair. This one really struck home with me. A father struggles to feed his family by working hard and doing the right thing. But when he thinks of those who are wealthy by illegal means, he wonders, what is the point of trying to do right? Maybe nice guys really do finish last after all. There was that one. And then my favorite one about where did Asaph find answers?
Oh,
Right.
okay. Yeah. In
Uh,
the Psalms.
In the songs.
this was just poorly written here, and like it was like this paragraph was just like here, and then we just threw it away afterwards. It says life is filled with questions. Where do we turn for answers? One of the most enduring TV home repair programs, This Old House,
What? What happened? Where are we going?
recently added a new segment called Ask This Old House. And then he goes on to explain the synopsis of Ask This Old House.
That's the thing with these booklets too, is they know they don't have anything to say, so they have to puff it up with useless illustrations like that.
Mhm.
Well, you could, I don't know if you can see, that's the whole thing about
The whole
This Old
sidebar. Yeah.
House. So, and then that goes nowhere. I had to go back and reread it. I was like, what was the point of this? But that, yeah, so
That's
those are
pretty
my two
jarring,
funny,
isn't it?
those are my two funny examples from that book.
That was gold. I like that.
So, for my first book, it was When God Says No. It was written in 2014, and it starts out with a lovely story about infertility and
Amen.
the ups and the ups and downs with that. And they thought they were going to
The
conceive,
ups
and
and
then
downs of what are the ups of infertility?
well, I say ups because they thought they were going to conceive, and then they got a phone call saying, oh, actually, no, it didn't take, and you're not actually pregnant, kind of thing. So,
So off to a really encouraging start with the book.
oh yeah. And
Right.
I really love that within the first several pages, he says that they spent a night in prayer, and it was the first time that his wife had ever seen him cry. And I'm like, if you haven't cried in several years of being married, I think there's something wrong. And then he says he felt a sense of healing after crying, of course, from God. And I
Or
said,
maybe just from getting a lot of pent-up emotions out.
exactly, that's what I said. I think it's just from releasing your emotions. Of course, after trying IVF and failing, he wonders if his spirituality was the problem. Maybe he didn't pray with enough faith.
That is how
Uh,
fertility
Mhm.
works.
Yep. Maybe he really had to believe to receive a child. But then they didn't conceive, and finally, after 10 years of trying to be able to have a child, they got another false positive. And he continually likens the waiting period to the wilderness, as in, like the
The
children of
Israelites wandering
Israel.
around.
Uh-huh. And the wilderness is a place of trial, and the purpose of a trial is to reveal the truth of what's in your heart.
The truth of your infertility.
Why do
Right.
we have to stretch things into a Bible story that really isn't related?
Right. That's about liberating people who have been oppressed by a wicked government.
Right.
And you're like, so my sperm count was low, and I thought of that reading the Exodus story.
Yeah, so then he talks about how they implanted every embryo, even if it wasn't a good quality embryo. And there was one that they didn't implant, and he
What?
worries over whether or not it was the right decision to not implant it.
Wait, what is this
What?
book about again?
I was gonna say, when
This
God
is when
says no,
When God says no, so God
okay.
is saying no to having a baby, okay?
Okay.
Is this specifically about infertility, or is this just like when something you want in life God doesn't give you?
I think it's supposed to be when well, I mean, it says broken dreams to new beginnings. So, you dream of having XYZ thing, and then it doesn't work out, or, God says no. And it's not explicitly about infertility. And if you were not expecting this when going into reading this,
Yeah,
this would be a very difficult read.
Hmm.
yeah. I'm thinking there are better examples, more universal
dude, we're like
examples. We
harping
could
on
Yes.
this example too. Like we're going into way too much detail with this.
Yes. And then he says that trials are to humble Christians. And I said, so, God is a dick? Like,
Yeah, I pretty much have that note for my next booklet.
He also states that the people of Israel never question God's existence. And
Wait,
I just want to know where he got that from.
yeah. What?
I mean, I think most ancients just assumed the gods existed, but there were plenty of times where they went after some other god. So at very least, they're saying, "I think this god's better."
Right,
Like
yeah.
that's kind of the entire story of the Tanakh is them going, "I think this god's better."
Well, yeah, I
Right.
guess technically they wouldn't be questioning his existence.
They're just
Which is questioning
whether or not to
everything about
worship
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Anyway, so following along with their story, since they have the failed pregnancy, his wife wants to leave Australia and move to Europe. And he doesn't want to. Yeah. He doesn't want to leave because he has a successful ministry. He also has a good career and good speaking engagements, and he's on a national radio show. Oh, sorry, a good writing career. I couldn't read my own handwriting. And he's on national radio show, and then he's like, oh, maybe I just have an idol of influence.
What?
What?
Oh,
Yeah, because
What
he
does
doesn't
this
want to
have to
move.
do? Wait. All right.
wait.
This might not be related to the booklet, but I have to
I'm
ask.
not even sure what the booklet's related to at this point, so
No,
go for
me
it.
neither. Why? Maybe they didn't answer, but why did she? Since they couldn't have a baby, was moving to Europe going to make everything better?
She just wants to start over, and you know,
Breathe that fertile
What?
air.
they're Christians, so divorce is not an option.
Mm.
But yeah.
I wish I got this booklet. This one sounds.
Oh yeah, this one
Man,
was
I
a
wanted to
ride.
read about infertility.
Yeah, and so they actually do end up moving, and I would just like to say that it really sounds like a lot of her own personal identity was caught up in the idea of being a mom. And I mean, he even says it in the booklet that she was so focused on having a baby that she didn't recognize her own talents and abilities. And so they do move, and she gets a career. I believe she became a nurse. I didn't write down what her career was, but she starts to become really successful, and he's kind of jealous of that because since he moved from Australia, he's not getting as many writing deals. He's not on
His idol
the
of attention
radio.
isn't being worshipped.
Yes. And then I would just like to read you an excerpt from page 26 where they meet up with some friends, and the friend says, how are you doing? And, especially since you weren't able to have a baby and all this, he says, coming to England has been the new beginning Marin, his wife, needed. My future is a little up in the air, and Marin still gets teary at times, but I guess we're trying to focus on the upside of being childless. Like having more time and being free to travel. And so it says, I can understand that, Adrian said, but focusing on the upside of your situation will only get you so far. All right, so far, okay, fine. This is a very normal conversation. The turn this takes will give you whiplash. We walked a little further before he explained what he meant. No matter how hard we try, Adrian said, we cannot put a positive spin on the crucifixion. It was a dark, barbaric event. I don't understand this.
The whole purpose of Christianity, putting a positive spin on the crucifixion?
Yes, but your friend just was explaining how he's been trying to heal from this traumatic time that he's been going through, and you're just like, so Jesus had a hard time too on the cross. Like, what kind of encouragement is this?
Friends like that.
Yeah, seriously.
No.
Yeah, and so then his conclusion is, if you walk with God through the wilderness and mine your suffering for its lessons, you'll have a more mature faith.
What?
Yeah, I didn't get that.
So out of this 20-page autobiography is all about try to find some good thing in what you didn't want in life.
Yeah, allow me to read you my conclusion after reading the entire pamphlet. I thought it was a very glittery, feel-good pamphlet about starting over after things don't go the way you wanted. There is a lot of privilege in this book, seeing as they moved to an entirely different country and were able to still be successful in their careers.
It's a fair point. I don't know that I could pull that off.
Mhm.
Right. And, if you're reading this for encouragement, not everyone is going to be able to just leave their former life and move to an entirely different country. And he mentions that in order to like help yourself like get over whatever trial you're going through, you should take up some different hobbies to get your
Right.
mind off of your failed dreams.
Sure.
And
Sure.
I would just like to say not everyone has the time or ability to take up a new hobby. I'm thinking of the single mom who has 3 kids and she's working a job. Like, when is she going to have time to take up another hobby?
Depends what that hobby is. You just got to make the hobby fit with your.
Maybe she
Yeah.
should make infertility her hobby.
It sounds like it.
Or
Yeah.
she could gamble.
Oh,
She
go
could
for a
go for a
drive.
drive.
Yeah.
Go for a drive and gamble.
Right. Yeah. And then it just ends with just remember your identity is in Christ and not your failed dream.
Which, like, on paper, that's not bad. Like, you're more than the things that didn't work out for you in life. But we're churchifying it to the point that I feel like it's lost any significance, any encouragement, and it just feels more like a guilt trip. Like we're telling you to have more faith. Like,
Yeah, well, that's the thing I've noticed with these pamphlets, and I get they're like super short and concise, right? So
Right.
like they got to get their point across quickly, but it's like it's all or nothing. Like
yes,
it's
zero
such a
nuance.
big freaking way.
Yes.
Like you're either like the most holy person on the planet, or you're addicted to whatever sin. Like
Yes.
a crippling addiction.
Crippling.
And
Right. Well, and
Good.
I mean, how did they trust God? They just moved to a totally different part
Yeah,
of the world
you
and
restarted
like
it by yourself. Like
yeah.
Yeah, that's so subjective. You could say trusting God would have been to stay there and be paid. Maybe he wasn't saying no to your having a kid. Maybe he was just saying you need to keep trying. That's the problem with it being so subjective. You can put either side on God, and ultimately it just comes down to you are going to decide to do whichever one you think is better, because none of us are hearing voices come down from the heavens. If we are, you should see a therapist immediately. So we don't have that kind of
go for a drive.
direction. Yes, you could go for a drive and possibly risk gambling addiction because of it. But yeah, that's frustrating that we have that same kind of all or nothing thinking here in Help for Those Who Hurt. Last time I tried to open with a few positives. I was trying to do the compliment sandwich there. I have one positive in this entire booklet. So this is a compliment Oreo when you've already taken the other piece off the Oreo to lick the filling off of. Like, I only have one side of this. And this was several pages in. They said that because this book is about like physical healing, like when you have some sort of physical hurt going on and God doesn't provide immediate healing, like a chronic illness sort of thing. And they did say that lack of healing does not equal lack of faith. That is my sole positive note in this book. So with that out of the way,
I can't wait for the negative.
yes, allow me to just go through some of my favorite parts of this here. If you are a Christian and you're sick, you should first consider what wrong you may have done in life.
Oh no.
Yep. They give categories of different types of people who can get sick, and one is a gross sinner, and the other is someone with weak faith. And they don't seem to realize how problematic those categories are for people.
Are those the only two people that can get sick?
Oh, no, they do eventually later on be like, so it's possible for you to be sick and for you not to have done anything wrong, but you should
But it's much less likely?
Yes, you should double check just in case.
Okay.
Like ask for forgiveness just in case.
So if your pastor gets sick, then he's clearly living in sin or sinning
More
in some
than
way?
likely. Yeah, and we all are, obviously. He claimed that everyone who came into contact with the great apostle Paul saw God's grace. And I just want to know if he ever read any of Paul's letters where half of them are about all the people that either are pissed off at him or that he is pissed off at. And they're calling him heretics and he's telling them to go castrate themselves. Like, yeah, that definitely sounds like they saw the grace of God in him. All who came into contact with him. He has a section on how adversity is just there to make you who God wants you to be. And that kind of made me think of Jana's note of God's a dick. Like, that's how he is in these worldviews. Because good parents know how to train children by teaching. They don't always have to test them. The most important things in life, you're not passing a test for. We all went to school. We all got tested. How much in those tests do you remember? Or is it the stuff that you learned through other means? You don't need to test someone to teach them something. And yet they think that God needs to bring all these hardships into your life or else you won't learn. He says that God could get along nicely without us. And I just want to know, if that's the case, why did he create us? Obviously, he didn't think he was doing well enough on his own. God is relational, but they like to view him as completely separate from us. He suggests that God might put you on a sick bed so that you could pray more. And I just want to say, remember, God is the one doing this, and God is the one you are praying to. That would be like if I broke Jana's leg, so she would have to stay home closer to me. Just because it's nice, I want to be with her, does not mean it is okay for me to break her leg. And yet, that's what we have God doing here. I am going to strike you with some sickness so that you spend more time with me.
Well, that's why COVID happened, Colin.
Because God got lonely. America strayed too far from him and he wanted our attention back. So he sent COVID so we would pray more. But God's a monster in this worldview. Like, it's horrible. He said that if you believe God and do his will, you'll be optimistic. Like, optimism, you can choose to be optimistic, but it's also just kind of a personality thing. Like, I am naturally a pessimist. And that does that mean that I'm automatically not believing in God? Yeah, apparently.
Yes.
Of course, there is a salvation message at the end of the book, because even though this is very clearly written to Christians, we need to make sure you're actually saved. I will point out that even though this book is, I think, 32 pages, it would be about 15 if they didn't print out every Bible verse they referenced.
Oh, man.
Like, there is so little content in this. They make this whole statement that I guess is supposed to be encouraging, where they said that God chastens those he loves. But we all have difficulties in life. So wouldn't that just mean then that we're all God's children that he's caring for in this way? But of course, Baptists wouldn't like that statement. They do say that you are God's favorite if you're a Christian, basically, because he's going to, what was the wording they used? He wants you to surrender to his will. And the mature Christian, quote, will do more than just ask for healing when he's sick. His prayers will always include thy will be done.
The mature Christian prays that way?
Yes. So the mature Christian always includes thy will be done in his prayers. I just want to point out, we have recorded prayers of Jesus where he doesn't say thy will be done. So was he not a
that
mature Christian?
of a Christian?
Yeah, apparently not.
Well, he was.
Somebody asked about Job. He does mention Job in here, but he completely misses the point. He says that Job was victorious by not turning on God, so we should do the same. Did you read the book of Job? He questions God. The whole point of Job is his saying, I could have done this way better than God. Come here and let me call you to account. Job fails the test in the book of Job. I don't understand the fundamentalist fascination with presenting Job as this faithful saint who never questions God. The point of the book is he questions God. He fails the test, and yet God still rewards him at the end. The point isn't it was a reward for his faithfulness. The point is sometimes life sucks, and sometimes it turns out great, and you can't decide when.
So Job also failed in the "it's not fair."
Oh,
for
we
sure.
got so much crossover going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me
It's like
speak
all
for
these
you.
authors believe the exact same thing.
Well, you kind of have to in these circles, because
Yeah.
there's no room for difference of opinion.
No.
He says you have to thank God for every circumstance. So I'm just wondering how that works out with, murder, rape, anything like that. Not find something to be thankful for. Thank God for the circumstance itself.
Oh,
That's not going to be problematic at all. He presents depression as entirely a spiritual thing. You should ignore pain now because it doesn't matter in light of eternity.
what?
There was not a
Like-
not a single mention in this entire booklet about dealing with physical pain here, like going to a doctor or giving money to help some sort of a charity where people get medical aid. None of that. Just wait for eternity.
Well, Jesus is going to heal you, Colin.
Apparently, they do have a section in the end where they don't believe in faith healing. That was interesting. Which
They
I'm
don't
like,
believe in faith healing and they don't believe in doctors.
oh no, he does actually say at one point at the very end that if you're sick, you should go to a doctor.
Oh.
And yeah, it was really weird. Like he goes through all this stuff about how you should pray and believe God and do this. And then in the very last chapter is like, and we don't believe in like Pentecostal anointing and all this. And if you're sick, go to a doctor.
What?
This is kind of the same thing. Like all you do is just not speak in tongues about it. But like you're kind of doing the same thing. Oh yeah, let me make sure I mention that he said if you're depressed, because he had a chapter on depression, you're depressed because you feel guilty about sin, or just because there's sin in the world. Being saved being saved relieves stress and liberates you from feeling worthless and alienated from God. Tell me you have never met a Christian in your life. I've known so many
Seriously.
Christians who feel worthless and alienated from God.
And stressed.
And you should, if you're depressed, you should find people to serve, because when you're so busy worshiping and serving God and others, you don't have time to think about your own problems.
What was this booklet about? Or what was it titled?
Help for those who hurt. So it was mostly about chronic illness, but he decided to touch on depression.
I
And
love it when they decide to touch on depression. I think that's my
always do.
favorite topic. Yeah.
They always do. So that one is going immediately in the shredder.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with the depression thing, that's what we were taught in school was, oh, you're just so focused on yourself, and that's why you're depressed, and you need to focus on God and others, and you'll magically be healed.
Right. But as someone who has depression, that doesn't work. Anyway, next
Oh,
up.
That's
encouraging.
just because you're a crappy Christian. That's all that is.
Apparently, that's what I'm learning.
Am I next?
Sure.
Self-esteem. What does the Bible say?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
So-
help
That
us
you shouldn't
learn.
have any.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you the book opens with this description. It's a contrast actually between two people. The one is a young man. He has good looks. He grew up in an expensive neighborhood. He had social privileges that come with success and wealth. She was plain in appearance. She was hardworking. You know where this is going. She worked hard. He was full of self-doubt. She was amazingly happy, well-adjusted. I mean, such a big description of her. And though aware of her limitations, was determined to go further in life than others thought she could. What he had in material advantage, she had in self-esteem and self-respect, because she was a Christian, of course. So yeah, so hers was right. The author goes on to say things like healthy self-esteem does not say I deserve more, which I'm thinking, if you're in a bad situation, whether it be a bad relationship, a bad organization, the church, it's not healthy for you to say I deserve more. It's just,
and those are the people who are going to be reading a book like that.
Exactly. And then it goes on to say human standards. Sometimes people will say things without, this has nothing to do with religion. This is the world saying to people, you're not junk, you're special. Don't let yourself be used by others. Be yourself, love yourself, trust yourself, and follow your own heart. Be all that you can be. Look out for yourself, because if you don't, no one else will. So he kind of poo-poos that's a wrong thing to do. He
And
says
the last one was a little selfish, but all the rest of those were actually pretty good advice.
exactly. And then it says, in the long run, efforts to make people feel better at the expense of truth is advice that ends in lasting regret and despair. So that advice that I just read is going
Right.
to end in despair. Your happiness and inner emotional health that God offers is infinitely and eternally better than anything you stand to lose in the process. And it says here, don't stop reading. He puts in here, keep reading, not only for your own sake, but for those who are influenced by your life. Again,
Oh,
going
man.
back to that.
Gotta keep you
Yeah.
hooked.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He knows he's losing you.
Yes.
And you need to give up on all trusts and sources of life. And it went on to say, now there was a part, where he says, man might focus on looks, brains, wealth, and talent, but God would focus on character, attitude, generosity, faithfulness, which,
Sure.
okay, that's good. Those are good qualities to have. Of course, there was reference to David, who was a man after God's own heart, who never did
Yes,
anything.
our favorite rapist.
Yeah. And of course, there's several reminders that we are all fallen and broken. Keep reading, because you need to be reminded that you're fallen and broken. And I loved this analogy. Does our spiritual condition touch our self-image like a fish touches water? That's my
I feel
favorite.
like the water didn't consent to that. Fish
Yeah.
touches water.
And of course, only the person who has a relationship with Christ has an enormous basis for good self-esteem. As I walk with Christ and surrender to him, I can, by his spirit, be anything he wants me to be. It's not, of course, it's not what you want to be. I can do anything he wants me to do. I can say anything he wants me to say. It's just like it.
I don't think they know what self-esteem is.
Yeah.
No, they don't. Because the Christians are like the least self-confident people out there most of the time, because they're so
Right.
concerned about all this, and they're being told all the time that they're trash.
Right.
Right. God
And
hates
this,
us.
yeah, and the sky, remember, the sky is not the limit. Remember, where you need to keep reading so you can hear these little gems. The sky is not the limit. The will of God is.
I think I'm gonna
So,
get that tattooed. Don't
You're reading an evangelical book when the things that make sense are the bad point of view.
exactly. I related to the bad points of view more than the other. And of course, let your weakness, it ends with, let your weaknesses push you to more dependence on God. So personally, after reading this, as far as self-esteem,
It was lower than when you picked up the book.
yes, exactly. I was feeling worse than when I started. So, but those are the main points that I found throughout this. It was just reminding you how broken you are, and the only way that you can have self-esteem, you can't think of yourself, you don't deserve more. It's only what God wants you to do and say and have and so forth. So it was not helpful at all, and quite frustrating to read.
All right. Yeah, we're about 6 for 6 right now on quality reads. So, Eli, what you got?
But this one was probably the least helpful one. This is Jesus' parables about money. And I was hoping for like financial advice, not actual financial advice, but like to give me something.
Sure.
Right. I thought it was going to be like good stewards of your money and all that stuff kind of deal. It was not. So there's like 3 parables in here. It does like the parable of the rich fool, the parable of the shrewd manager, and the parable of the complaining workers. Right. And then at the end of every single one, it was just like, so kind of like money's no object, right? And you owe so much to God that you should give the church all of your money. And there was,
Yep.
Okay. That tracks.
Gotta fuel the pastor's yacht fund.
This was every single one. And then the parable of the complaining workers right? If you didn't know what the name of the game was before, it's about like the first two parables. So it talks about this guy who, by the age of 21, had like $1 million net worth,
Okay.
right? And this is in 1908, and that would be equivalent to about $40 million today,
Wow.
right? Yes. And at the age of 25, this guy gave away his entire fortune to God's work.
Of course he did.
And yes. And it says, you guys might think that was stupid, but it wasn't.
Yeah,
Because
understandable.
it wasn't. And also, he went to go become a missionary, but he died before he could from something. I've never heard of it, but it seemed like money might have been able to help prolong his life. But he had already
If
given
only
it
he had
all
some.
away. Yes.
But
But
you have to
yeah,
then think, if he didn't give it all away, he could have used some of it to get doctors to get healed and then go be a missionary. And isn't that what God wanted?
exactly. Well, no,
Mm.
God wanted $40 million. That's what I figured out from this. But no, every single one of them was just like that. And I was like, this is,
Not helpful.
I'm not so sure that that's what these parables
He's a
were trying
one-trick
to
pony.
accomplish.
Every story means the same thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I was like, this is just pointless. So I got more out of the other one, even though this one was just frustrating because I was like, this is just annoying to read. Like, I'm not sure how you're trying to bring this back to the same point. But yeah,
there are
give
some
God
things
all
that
your
really
money.
need to be written.
Mhm.
Okay.
Agreed.
All right, Jenna, take us home.
Oh, buddies, I have got quite the trip for you. This last one was a doozy. You thought the first one was good, the last one, oh boy. So it's called When Disappointment Deceives. It was written in 2004. And we begin with a Matrix movie example,
Okay.
about taking the red pill so we can see how we're being deceived during times of disappointment.
Mm.
Spoiler alert.
Right. And so he's a little cryptic in the first part. You're like, deceived, lied by disappointment? Like, what are you getting at? Early on, he does make a good point about how sometimes if you're disappointed by not getting what you want, it can help you reevaluate your motives behind why you want it in the first place. I was like, okay, not bad. But then he negates that by making a bad point. uh, that disappointing events can remind you that this world is not our home and we should look forward to being in heaven. Okay. He also defines a lie, and it's that any thought or conclusion that persuades us to tear ourselves down, stop caring for others, or love God less.
That's what a lie is.
Yeah, that's what a lie is.
I mean, I always thought it was
I
not
didn't
telling
know
the
that.
truth, but we can go with that.
I didn't know that.
Right.
I learned something today.
Yeah, I thought that was very interesting. He also says that the world is an organized system by Satan that leaves God out.
Wow.
I thought you were going to say
Yep.
the world is an oyster.
Is he still talking about the Matrix?
I was hearing the world as a vampire, but we can go with that too.
No, I think we've taken the red pill, so we're gonna see like what the lies are, but we have to define what a lie is because that's apparently not obvious.
Okay.
Devil is our invisible enemy who is out to get us. Satan uses lies to attack us. Satan is behind all negative thoughts you may have after being disappointed. Satan is behind our doubts and questions about God in the midst of being disappointed.
Oh, our questions too. So if you have a single question about God, it must be from Satan.
Right.
Satan's
And
calling a lot of shots over here.
oh
Yeah.
yes, and Satan can lie to us through our friends and family.
I
So
knew
through a
it.
booklet.
I think you all are lying to me.
You bastards.
I feel like this book is how you create schizophrenia. Because like if somebody is walking around with an invisible enemy who's responsible for everything in their life, they should be on medication.
This book is
That's a good point.
it's a bit schizophrenic. So I also have a note that says the beginning of page 12 here. I find it alarming that the role the devil plays rarely appears on our radar screens. Many Christians don't seem to recognize or even believe that the evil one is assaulting them with lies. They may believe that he attacks missionaries serving in remote places of the world, but they also believe that living in a technologically advanced and enlightened society puts them out of range of such attacks. If we think we're too smart for such things, we couldn't be more wrong. And
I don't think I've ever heard a Christian say that because we live in a part of the world that has cable and cell phones, the devil can't do anything.
I feel like, yeah, I
Right.
feel like those are weapons. Like they constantly weaponize those things into other pamphlets.
Right.
Yeah. And this also gets into, thinking that Satan is omnipresent and cares about our
Seriously.
insignificant lives. He also says if we are unaware of Satan's schemes, then he will outwit us. But if we become too obsessed with Satan, then we'll attribute every negative thought to him.
Like
Wait.
you just
I
said he's
know.
responsible
Yes.
for?
Yes. Yeah, this book
Oh,
gives you
yeah.
whiplash. So then he says, don't turn to false comforters such as food, sex, or hobbies.
Food, sex,
those
or
are-
hobbies.
Those are comforting things. Like, isn't that the purpose?
But don't turn to them. All right. The other guy was saying to get hobbies to,
Yeah.
distract you from your disappointments. This guy says hobbies. Nope. Don't have
That's a
them.
distraction of the devil. Okay.
Yes. He also claims that you become bitter after experiencing disappointment. And I say, no,
What?
you become bitter after experiencing disappointment. And I say, no, you become bitter because you spent your time blaming Satan instead of grieving the disappointment.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
you spend your, Satan made me lose all this, whatever that I wanted. Just be sad. It's okay to be sad that you didn't get what you wanted. You didn't get the job, you didn't get the house, whatever.
The pregnancy.
Right, the pregnancy. Yes. Yeah, I was kind of surprised how these kind of intertwined a little bit.
There's nothing new under the sun. These people have only so many hobby horses and illustrations they can use.
True.
Right.
Food or sex? It's two hobbies.
Right. Then on page 18, he says, some of us have made proving our critics wrong such a high priority that it begins to take over our lives. Not bad advice, okay. Yeah, we gotta look at the positive in there. Then he says, inviting God into the disappointed and deceived parts of our heart will cause healing, sometimes immediately and sometimes eventually. He also uses some out of context verses to tell you to wake up and see what's going on in your disappointing experiences.
Well, you heard it there. He said to be woke.
Right. Oh yeah, because he says, wake up, O sleeper, ... because the days are evil, from Ephesians. That's definitely what that verse means.
Oh yeah. It
Yeah.
can mean whatever you want it to mean.
Any of these verses mean whatever they want them to mean.
Right. Get ready for some more whiplash. When we surrender, we're acknowledging that we've sinned against God by leaving him out. We're admitting that our ways of managing disappointment don't work and that we need God more than ever. A deeper level of surrender will occur in us when we admit that he is God and we are not. While we may struggle with doubt and ask him many tough questions, a sincere prayer can emerge from our hearts that is similar to the one a disappointed and confused father once expressed to Jesus. I do believe, help me overcome my unbelief. And I put a note, I thought experiencing doubt and questioning God was from Satan.
How did you pick these pamphlets, Jana?
Yeah, you got like really, really good ones.
Yeah.
I just chose ones that didn't look like they would go together, and apparently
Somehow
they do kind of go together. Yeah. Oh yes, and then on the end of page 24, he gives us some decent advice. Let's see, we must spend time with painful memories and emotions. Sometimes the memories are about a specific incident that is stamped with a date and time. At other times is just a gut feeling that isn't attached to any one particular event. Whatever is stirred up, we need to give it a name and feel our disappointment. We shouldn't hurry through this. We need to slow down and let ourselves think about, describe, and feel the hurt. Excellent advice.
Isn't that all the stuff that he was just giving Satan all the credit for that stuff earlier, right?
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
He's just completely talking out of his butt. He's just like, it feels like a high school report paper where you have a word
This sounds
count
like
that
one
you're
of the
trying to
worst
make.
written ones.
Yeah. Like I just
Yeah.
have to keep writing until I hit my word count.
And it's so long. It's 31 pages long. And, it has the 2 little columns on each page so that you can,
Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, I know. I sat down to read this. I was like, oh, I'm going to be here forever. Yeah, so then he says, if what we hear makes us feel discouraged or feeds a bitter attitude, it is not from God. So the typical Baptist church sermon,
Not from God.
right? Anytime,
That was good.
That was good. Delayed reaction.
anytime you're disappointed, you'll be lied to by Satan, but you can combat that with the power of Jesus.
Yes.
He's a magic bullet for all of our issues.
That's
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah, so I said it was pretty negative at the beginning and end, some good advice in the middle. I really didn't love the whole you'll be lied to when you're disappointed, because his whole thing was, oh, when disappointment comes, you're going to think, oh, I'm such a loser, or, I'm so stupid kind of thing. And that's supposed to be like from Satan. And I said that he could have more positively said that your failures and disappointments don't define you, instead of saying that they're from Satan.
Right. It kind of goes back to the same thing. Like at the end of the day, it's nice that he's saying you're more than this, but why are we over spiritualizing this thing instead of just saying you're more than this? He could have said all that on one page instead of going through
He had
all
to
the
fill up
factors.
32 of them, though.
Right. Yeah, and at the end of the day, Jesus.
I have to get to Magic Jesus. That was about as productive as I thought that would be going through those. So thank you all for taking the time to go through.
Did anyone learn anything?
I learned that I don't think I want to go through the rest of these booklets, but I'm probably
If you experience really, tragic heartbreak, just pack up all your stuff and move to a different country. It works.
That is a good lesson we learned here.
I was gonna say I learned to take a drive and gamble.
Okay, I'm gonna check out this new show, Ask This Old House.
We need a little like Breakfast Club close for this. Stephanie went on to go for a drive. She became a gambling addict. Elijah found this old house.
And Jana moved to a different country.
Jana's now residing in Europe with her goats.
And Colin didn't learn anything from these and just decided to burn all the rest of the booklets.
Oh, man.
Well, thank you all for wasting this precious time in your life with us here this week. We appreciate having you along for the journey, so it was not quite so miserable suffering alone. Until next week, I got nothing else. Until next week, don't read these booklets.
Found do not read list. You ever see that? That's what this should be.
Yeah, this will go on the blacklist for things you're not allowed to read.
Yeah, Connie's do not read list.
Yeah, I don't have any better way to end this, so thank you guys for wasting time with that.
You've been listening to the Bible Uncut and Unfiltered. We hope we provided a healing place to discuss the questions you can't ask and the context you won't learn in church. If you enjoyed the podcast, would you take a minute to share it with a friend? You could also rate and review on your podcast app. If you'd like to donate to keep our work going, you can go to our website, thebibleuncut.com, and click on the Support Us tab. While you're there, check out the recommended resources and blog where we post show notes and other articles. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.